Hey everybody, how's it going? Dan Schinder here on Yesshift with that guy.
Steven Schinder,
Our
father-son team.
100th...
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, you're the dad, I'm the son. But yeah, episode 100, not including news desk and bonus episodes. I tried looking up the number. Apparently, if we include those, we're somewhere between 130, 135, something like that. But
And we're only going to be 2 years in July. I think that's quite a bit of material. Like, I didn't realize it until just a little while ago. I told Enja that it's our... there we go, a little taste of the new album for you. Hopefully it won't get muted. I told Enja, yeah, we're about to do our 100th episode. I'll see you in a couple hours or 4. This is going to be a long one. Hang in there, folks. We'll explain. But she was like, really, 100? I said, yeah, we started this 2 years ago, this coming July. She's like, really? It feels like you just started. I said, yeah, it's because I still don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, I
Kidding,
think we
of course.
Started recording in May 2 years ago and then started releasing in July. So
that's right, because we weren't doing them live. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, folks, even though the numbered episodes usually focus on one main topic, since it's episode 100, we figure, we've been on a 3-week break because of the Drum Talk TV 10-year anniversary celebration. So we'll cover the new album, we'll review it, and we'll share our thoughts on the classic Tales of Yes tour. Yeah. And we'll also talk a bit about the Yessongs album, which recently turned 50, and of course talk some May birthdays and remembrances. And the 10-year Drum Talk TV event was amazing. We had Jeff Berlin there, and he was a really funny guy, wasn't he, Dad?
Yeah, thanks for giving the shout out for that. And for those of you watching on Drum Talk TV, this is Yesshift, show I do with Steve, who is the Chief Content Distribution Officer of Drum Talk TV, runs the background of the brand. But Jeff was my co-host, and I got to jam with Jeff, and so did A.D. Adams, phenomenal drummer from Louis Prima Jr. and the Witnesses, as well as the Amazon Prime TV show The Recording Artist, and Crass Street Kids and other projects. And it was a blast having Jeff. He called me yesterday, a week later. He called me yesterday to say, I'm just checking. Are you still happy with how everything went, this and that? And it was just really, really nice of him. And we had such a great jam. That show will only be up as is for maybe a day or two. And then we're pulling it down, and I'm completely reimagining it. We're going to chapterize it. We're going to cut it up, and it's going to have about 10 videos added to it as well, really short ones that have to do with each talking point. If you watch some of it, any of it now, well, not now, after this show, you'll see what I mean about the talking points with Jeff and I. And then at the very end, for the last hour and a half, I guess, my band from the late 70s into 1980 performed with Chaz West as our guest singer. And we never played with Chaz, and we hadn't played regularly in 43 years. We played once 20 years ago. They surprised me for my 40th birthday. And you were there for the rehearsal, Steve, other than me screwing up that one unmentionable song 9 times in a row at the end. I think I was just tired by then. Other than that, and it went fine for the performance. I thought we sounded like we had always been playing. It was like magic. It really was.
Yeah, and everyone was being really professional and whatnot. Just the way you talk. I know I saw bits of the rehearsing, but just the talking through of, let's try like this and that. It's okay, yeah, it's really cool the way this is going on.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks. And folks, sign up for the Drum Talk TV newsletter. You can do that by going to the Drum Talk TV Facebook page, click sign up. It'll take you to our little sign up form. Big news coming. We're doing a talent search. We got new series coming. We've got our membership site that we're getting people on the waiting list for now that's going to unfold, and you'll be part of the development if you get on board in the first month. It's really exciting stuff. But for Yesshift's 100th show, we also, like every show, want you to chime in. So as Steve and I discuss and this has been difficult. We've both really had to bite our tongues on this because we don't pre-discuss the show. So Steve doesn't know how I feel about what we're going to talk about. Well, except for a couple things, but the album and the perspective of Yessongs at 50. We don't talk about this. We save it for the show. And as we ask each other questions, those questions are for you too. And we want you to chime in.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so A Mirror to the Sky. We've talked about the artwork a bit on some previous episodes, but I guess just sort of reiterate how you're feeling about it now and how it looks and how it fits with the music, if at all, Dad.
And that last part is a great question when it comes to any album cover, I think, and especially Yes album covers, when they broke away from Roger Dean art with Tormato and Going for the One and Talk. And, you know, it kind of made sense, of course, with the Trevor years, but it was just kind of like weird, you know, maybe weirder than any other band member change. So I love the album cover in its own context, and I love how it fits with the music. Doesn't mean I like the music. We'll get into that. But what's up with the guy? There was a guy on the quest after Chris's passing. There's a guy
it was
on
a
Mirror.
rock that people think looks like a guy, but yeah.
Yeah, or is it a guy that looks like a rock because he's a rocker? If it's Chris, it fits. But now there's a gentleman. Is that Alan? And they dedicated it to Alan, and the album title and the title track, Mirror to the Sky. I think it might not be a coincidence. I'd love to find out. Eventually, we'll get Roger on. We were hoping to see him when we filmed the documentary at his and Freya's exhibit in San Francisco last fall. And unfortunately, his mother passed away and he left the country. But we'll get him on. There's so many questions I would like. I get to have him on every week and not run out of questions, you know. But
yeah, I'll try to reach out and see if he responds. I'll try that again. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So those are my thoughts. I love the cover. I love the starry sky, the glowing, and it fits our player by coincidence. I wasn't even thinking. I didn't know Steve was going to have the background there. But I'm very happy with it, and I'm going to pull it up. Sorry, I know it's in Steve's background, but here we go. There you go, right there. What do you think, Steve? Oops, it's covering Steve.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I love it. It especially looks better when you see it on the canvas in those live videos that Roger did, because you know these things look so much better when you can see how they look, like as close and possible to in person as you can. But even just on a screen, like it looks pretty good, and I like it might be one of my favorites of his, and it fits the music really well. There's a bunch of lyrics about the stars and space, and I love that it's a reflection of the sky, like in the water. It's really great.
Yeah.
And Roger recently posted an unboxing video where he got the box set for A Mirror to the Sky, and he had great things to say about the packaging, complimented the Gottlieb brothers. And yeah, like Roger, like he's the man. He knows how to do this stuff.
Yeah, and we got to get them on. We've talked to them, haven't we, about coming on? We've corresponded with them.
Yeah, well, I'll reach out to them again.
Okay.
I know that it was very busy last time, and
right.
We talked about that, but yeah.
Cool.
So
chime in, folks.
Right.
Let us know what you think of the cover.
Yeah, and before I forget, this weekend being Memorial Day weekend, on the Yes official online store, yesofficial.manheadmerch.com, there's a 20% off sale for the merch that's there, shirts, mugs, the tour book from last year, so people can go ahead and check that out, and I'll include the link in the comments and show notes and whatnot.
Cool. Are you going to get something?
I was thinking about it. I know that there's like the Mirror to the Sky shirts, so it might be a possibility. So.
Oh, neat. Cool.
Yeah.
I might too. I'm going to go take a look.
All right, cool. All right, so Mirror to the Sky, the album proper. So we've got disc 1, which includes Cut from the Stars, All Connected, Luminosity, Living Out Their Dream, Mirror to the Sky, Circles of Time, and disc 2, which includes Unknown Place, 1 Second Is Enough, and Magic Potion. So we've talked about the first 2 tracks when they dropped in the lead up to the album. How do you feel about Cut from the Stars and All Connected now that we've heard it in the context of a whole album?
I think they fit the album, and the interesting thing to me, I don't know how you feel about this, but Cut from the Stars to me sounds like it definitely could have been on the Quest. It's a nice bridge, not ice bridge, but it's a nice bridge between the 2 albums, because it's carrying on the song. It's not like going from talk to magnification, if you will. It fits. It's like, other than Alan, of course, it's that band, and there's some congruency there.
Okay. Yeah, to me, it feels like a new thing. Like, I'm not sure why it's different for each of us, but it really felt fresh and new. And even listening it, like taking a break from it and then listening to it with the album, it felt even fresher. Like, I felt like I was hearing things I didn't hear the first time around.
And don't get me wrong, I think it fits this album very well.
Right. But yeah, it's interesting because some of this album they were working on while they were still doing the Quest. So like it was kind of like a continuous thing. So
yeah.
I guess that kind of brings me to something that I kind of had in mind. Do these 2 albums feel like part 1 and part 2, or do they feel more like they're, for the most part, each their own thing?
For me, I think they feel like they're each their own thing. And what I'm going to say might sound like I'm sliding the Quest, and that's not my intention. But I think this is as much a leap ahead from the Quest, or a leap away, however we want to put it. It's a leap from the Quest as much as the latter was from Open Your Eyes. And for the record, folks, I love Open Your Eyes. I love that album. But the latter was just like taking that, okay, now we've got this lineup figured out in our sound. This sounds like the same thing, of course, sans Alan, but I think this is like they found their groove, no pun intended, and that I'll leave it at that for now until we start going through the rest of the songs. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, they both feel more like their own thing overall, which is not surprising because, yes, even when they had the same lineup, like you mentioned, Open Your Eyes to the latter, but there's also like, even from going for the 1 to Tornado, like you can see the lineage there, but you can hear like, okay, they're trying some different things on Tornado. And also like from Fragile to Close to the Edge, those are very different structures, having some solo pieces as their own tracks. And then
and even
you got this,
even relayer to relayer. Like the lineup sounds the same, but there's
right.
And Steve Howe, I'm paraphrasing, but I remember Steve saying in an interview, either we watched or read or both, where he said they're not looking for sameness. They didn't do the same thing. And you can hear that, but yet it sounds like basically it's the same band.
Right. It's the same band, but they're trying different things. Like these 2 albums are very much connected, pun intended, because of the approach, like the similar approach to, the same team for the most part, and also like the era in which they made them, but they feel like they can stand on their own. So All Connected, I feel like I'm appreciating it more and more as I hear it. The sentiment of, people all around the world can be connected one way or another, and I kind of get chills when the intro starts with the do-do-do-do-do-do-do, and I think of the music video opening the door. It's like, okay, we're entering the thing, and then do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Like, I just love the guitar sounds in it.
I was going to say, not only do I like the guitar sounds, as a whole, I like the production of the album. I think there's a lot of places where the vocals could have been pushed way up, but I love the wide variety of guitar sounds. And I don't feel like some people said about The Quest that it's a Steve Howe album. I don't feel that at all. Even though he takes most of the writing credits, but I just still don't feel that. But one thing about All Connected is I hear some of Steve's sounds and playing style from his beginnings, his second solo album. And I hear his influences from the far west. You know, he was into a lot of music that sounds like country music influence, old school country music. I don't mean the pop music of today where the only thing country about it is the lyrics and the twang and the vocals, but I mean the real country music from the old days. And I hear that in some of his guitar playing and textures here and there, which I think is neat, and scales even.
Yeah, definitely. And then we get to Luminous, which kind of has a minstrel feel to me. Like you can kind of imagine this like being played in like some medieval fantasy thing or a Renaissance fair or something like that. Like the way that the singing is, and do you get that sense, or like how does Luminous feel to you?
Yeah, the same way. In fact, my note, neat drum sounds. Is that a nod to Bill Bruford's ratchet that I hear that he used in King Crimson?
Yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, I have to type a very important note. I'm sorry.
Okay. And the whole thing about, it reminds me of the Star Wars quote from Yoda, "Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter." So automatically I associate it with, that spaciness that I kind of feel throughout much of this album.
Yeah, and there's some really great drum sounds in that aren't in any of the other songs. There's some drum sounds from other songs, but there's a bit of a sidestep with some extra textures and things that I think Jay did a really great job of, and Steve did a great job of producing.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first album where Jay is a full-time member and he's doing everything.
Right, and I wanted to point out, I think he did a great job. I love his playing. It fits, and I love his sounds. I'm very happy for him. You know me, I could easily be Captain Critical when it comes to this because I've been playing Yes music since I was 10, since 73 or 72. And I know Alan's playing inside and out, the live versions, the albums. I mean, every little nuance. He was the second of my two biggest influences that I learned the language of their music. John Bonham first, and then I got into Alan White and his playing, and as the albums came out. But Jay does, my point is Jay does a great job. He's a great fit. The only person I could think of that might have been able to do as good a job would be me. So good job, Jay. Seriously, good job. Awesome. So happy for you and happy for the band. And thanks for carrying on the torch because this is, okay, I'll just say it. I think this is a great album and we'll get more into that later.
Okay, yeah. And it was also his birthday a week ago. So and this album.
What a great birthday present.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. All right, so the next track is Living Out Their Dream. And I don't know about you, but this feels like kind of a detour from the stuff that's on the main CD. What do you, I don't know, do you have the same feelings? Or?
Okay, so I don't want Jeff Downes to get mad at me, but I know this is his only writing credit. And I feel the same way. I'm just not fond of this piece. It sounds like such a departure from everything else on the album. And quite honestly, before I read the credits and only knew that Jeff had one writing credit, I honestly thought it was 1 second is enough. And I'll explain why when we get to that song. So I don't know. I hate to put it this way. If this was a leftover track, or I don't know why Jeff wasn't more active. He's a big part of the Yes lineage, and he's a great player, and he has his own sound and his own sounds. So I don't know, but I personally am not fond of this. There's going to be other people just like you when you discovered Yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart was your favorite Yes song. before you got into the more proggy stuff and went down, drink the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And for some people, this might be their favorite song because they're not progists, and I respect that. But I'm just talking about my own sensibilities. I'm not
Right.
very fond of the song, and I don't see it. It doesn't fit the rest of the stuff.
Yeah. Now, I have a couple points. So, regarding Jeff, he was actually asked about this, like his involvement and stuff, and it sounded like the group was working organically, and Jeff just, like, he said something akin to, like, he does what feels naturally and wouldn't want to try to get in the way of like what everyone is doing and like disrupt it. And, I respect that because, I think back to Fly From Here, and that was a good record, but, like Trevor Horn, like really wanted everything done a certain way. So there's kind of that. So I do kind of like that Jeff does what he thinks is natural and doesn't want to force anything. But it is still surprising that this is his only writing credit. And, it's nothing new for a Yes album to have an album for, I might have messed up the wording there. So,
no, so a prominent contributor and someone at the other end of that spectrum.
Yeah, I think back to Going for the One, the only writing credit for Alan in particular was on Turn of the Century, I believe, but he's still very present on the album. So it's not a bad thing for a member to have just one writing credit on the album.
And some band members of bands have none.
Right. But it was kind of surprising that this is the one. Like, if I didn't know ahead of time, I might have guessed one of the later songs, which we'll get to, but
yeah. And I honestly wondered I just thought, well, maybe he's busy with Asia or one of his other projects or something, and it was a timing thing.
Well, I know there's the Downs Braid Association album. I'd have to look at the timeline of that. That one, I think, is finally coming out in September. But that's not to say Jeff is short on work. He has these different projects, so it's not like he's getting shortchanged or anything.
Right, but it also shows his trust in the rest of the band. Like, you guys do your thing, and I'll do what comes natural. That's fair.
Yeah. But yeah, Living Out Their Dream is kind of a funky song. Like, I do kind of like it as like a closer to rock and roll type song. The guitar stuff, like it kind of reminds me of Music to My Ears from The Quest, and I think Bits might also remind me of I don't remember if I also think of this of a later song, but Bring Me to the Power from Keys to Ascension 2. So yeah, I think it's kind of a strange detour, but I kind of wonder if they put it in as like an interlude before getting back to the main show type thing, but I really don't know. But I think a lot of fans are kind of with us on this, that it does feel like a departure from some of the other stuff, kind of like the bumpy ride section on the Fly From Here suite, which was kind of a different feel.
Yeah, and we also will read some fan thoughts, and feel free to chime in live on the chat. And we've got a note from Dave Watkinson. Well, another one popped up. He says, "Hi, chaps. Steve is very echoey." Oh, that's probably my fault. Oops, everything's moving. I can't read it. Hold on, let me back up. Sorry. Steve's very echoey. Not a real word, I know. Sure it is. Then he says, orchestra, time and a word. The new album, bringing one in, must take away something to allow the space. I think there's still too much absence of Jeff's playing with an orchestra or a choir or someone with a kazoo and bagpipes. I would like to hear more Jeff with the music, and I'll get to that a little later. But your take is absolutely fair, Dave. And then Kevin McQuiggan says, the bridge in Mirror to the Sky is the most beautiful couple of minutes of Yes since Awaken. Wow. And I'm not even a huge John D. vocal fan. Wow. Okay. I love John's voice, but that's fair. Cool. That's a very neat comment. And we'll cover that song next.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin McIvergan. Yeah, let's go ahead and jump into the title track then. So,
okay. So
yeah, this one is almost 14 minutes, but yeah, like, what do you think of it, Dad?
I made 5 notes, and the first 3 notes are epic, epic, and epic. I love this song. It's beautiful, like Kevin said about that part, and just there's some wonderful key changes and time signature changes and different grooves and sounds, and it's a great Yes song. There is that part where, if I remember right on this song, Steve Howe is doing the diddle 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 diddle, which sounds like the instrumental part in "Bring Me to the Power" as well. And it happens a few times, but at about 9 minutes and 46 seconds, there's that really high synth sound, and that was honestly the first time I was reminded, oh yeah, there's keys on this album somewhere. And I don't mean that as a slight to Jeff. I just mean I want more Jeff Downs on this stuff. Unless he's blending in so well, I can't identify it. But I have a pretty good ear for music, I think, in production. So that was interesting. And then lastly, I wonder if this qualifies to be played on the Tales of Yes tour. It's an epic song. This is a leap forward big time.
Yeah, we'll get to that when we talk about the tour. But yeah, what's funny is the like that part actually reminded me of some of the Union era or Turbulence, Steve Howe solo album stuff. Yeah,
same here. Yep.
But yeah, I think the lyrics are pretty cool. There's a moment where John kind of sings in a sort of mysterious way when he gets to this one section where it's like, let me just look it up real quick. Where he's like, what the shadow minds behind the third eye. And you also have the inclusion of words like, I don't remember if I'm pronouncing this correctly, but Tikkun Olam. Do you know the meaning of that?
No.
Oh, so I had to look it up as well, but apparently it's a concept in Judaism which refers to various forms of action intended to repair and improve the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I should know that. So should you.
You also got Spiritus Mundi, which I think means world spirit or spirit of the world. It's Latin. So I think it's cool including stuff like that. And again, you have like the mention of stars and really cool lyrics like Sail Timeless Time. And like, I think the lyrics are cool on this, but this epic also leaves time for the music to breathe. You have that quieter section in the middle, which kind of felt to me like that middle section of Sound Chaser where it kind of slows down a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe even a little King Crimson-esque. Like, I think there's a King Crimson song that kind of has a similar feel.
Yeah, and just wide open. Also, talking about this song reminds me of the fact I want to mention, I'd like your comments and everyone's comments on this. I'm very happy with what I refer to as the vocalscape on this album. The way their vocals blend. John, Steve, and Billy, I think, sound really good. And there's a couple parts where Billy really stands out and you go, oh, there's that voice, from his solo stuff, circa other things that they've done, things he did with Chris, Conspiracy, of course. So I thought that was cool because that's the Yes vocal sound now. That's something big that they were known for from the very beginning that morphed a little bit with personnel changes here and there, but it still sounds like a Yes choir, if you will.
Yeah, like you got that dreams of a sky without fire. Like you have the choir very present.
And I think throughout the album, it carries out throughout the album.
Yeah. Brian Cahoon says, gentlemen, hi, Brian. And Kevin chimes in again saying, somewhere on the album, I heard an homage to Arriving UFO, probably unintentionally.
Oh, interesting.
I'd be curious where, because I don't remember anything.
Yeah, let us know where that is. I'd love to check that out. Let us know. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, this is a pretty strong epic, and I like the way the orchestra is implemented. Like I kind of think back to Dreamtime on Magnification. You know, it was aggressive, but it also had moments for the orchestra on there.
Yeah.
And this title track makes me like it really gets me in a groove, getting me wanting to maybe dance a bit when you get the do 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 do. And it's like stuff is going down. You know, it has
Yeah,
a nice
yeah,
edge to it.
stuff's going down. I like that. Cool.
And then we get to the closer of disc one, Circles of Time. I'm very curious how you feel about this one because I know your history with like ending with softer songs, but how do you feel?
Because I don't have the discs and I listened to this on YouTube all the way through, I didn't take it as an ending song. But we will get to that topic. I think in this song, John sounds like John Anderson from the Open Your Eyes and Promise Ring period.
Oh,
And
really?
Cut from the Stars, I think he sounds like very, very, very early John Anderson. Other than that, I really think that John Davison sounds exactly like John Davison. Like he has his own voice on this album. And some of these other, and I think there's somewhat coincidences, just harken back. You know, it's hard to not make comparisons, you know, but I'm not going to pick every song apart. Oh, he sounds like him on this. Oh, he's trying to do this. I don't see it that way. I just happen to notice those two, to me, very clear sonic similarities. Other than that, I think John Davison sounds like John Davison, and I think he sounds great. I really do. And it's a nice, wispy, lazy pool kind of song, and I like it. It's pretty.
Yeah, and there was also a video they put out for this where it has like clocks and it kind of has an aesthetic similar to what Rush used for the Clockwork Angels stuff. And I really like the look of the video and you know the mood that this song evokes. It kind of has like an existential feel to it, and you know I love Holy Lamb, but I do feel like this feels like it segues from Mirror to the Sky better thematically than Holy Lamb from I'm Running or Time is Time from In the Presence of. So I think this is
I agree. It
like
fits
it
better.
flows better. Yeah.
Yeah, it fits better than those do on their respective albums, like Big Generator, and then you got Holy Lamb. It's like it's a beautiful song on its own, but yeah, it kind of is so much of a departure. But yeah, I agree with your take on that.
Yeah, like I found myself like Circles of Time kept coming back to my mind and I love singing along to it and to Mirror to the Sky as well. So yeah, I think it's a very beautiful ending to the main album.
Cool.
So then we get to disc 2, you know, the bonus tracks. And for Unknown Place,
You know, can I want to comment on that again?
yeah.
Not having the discs and just listening through each track on YouTube. Like I totally lost context. The fact that those are bonus tracks to me, it was just a longer album. Is the way I looked at it and listened
Okay.
to it. So
Right. Yeah, I bought the set, but it's coming on June or it's shipping on June 7th, I think, which just so happens to be the same day of the Buggles and Seal concert that's happening over here in LA. But because I bought it, they emailed me the digital download, so I listened through that and through YouTube as well. But I was aware of the bonus track thing, like how they did it on the Quest. I feel like the ones here, to me, feel more layered than the ones on the Quest. You know, you had Sister Sleeping Soul, which was a beautiful piece by John Davison, and then you had Mystery Tour, which was kind of a silly but fun Beatles homage, and then Damaged World sung by Steve Howe. Like the songs on here, Unknown Place, One Second Is Enough, and Magic Potion, feel to me like they have more going on musically than those other songs. Do you think they could have been put on the main disc or like somewhere in the tracking order, or would that have halted the momentum somehow?
So I got to get my head around this because, again, and I'm looking at the list when I look over here, folks, because of the way I listened to it. So
Right.
I'm used to this order now. Like, to me, this is the order of the album, one album. So
Right.
with almost everything we've reviewed, there's been times where we've had personal thoughts of, oh, this song could have been here and there. To me, there's nothing blaring on this album where something could have been changed, with one exception, since you brought it up, with one exception.
Right.
And that is, I think that as much as Magic Potion, I like that song, it does still sound kind of like a wind down soft ending compared to the rest of the album as a whole. So I might have swapped that out with something with a little more energy. And that's not a criticism. That's just my personal sensibilities. Again, I like an album to end with a kick in the pants.
Yeah.
So I don't really have a thought. I have individual thoughts on each individual of those three songs I'd like to talk about. But as far as should they have been placed anywhere else, I don't have a thought on that, because to me, this is just the order of the album, because that's how I listen to it.
Yeah. I think
Yourself?
Yeah, I get what you mean about Magic Potion. Like, it is quieter for a while, but I feel like it does get like a moment of triumph with the do 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 do. But I get what you mean. The one change I would make to the tracking order is, I think I would swap out Living Out Their Dream, put that on the second disc, and put Unknown Place where that would be. So between Luminous and Mirror to the Sky.
I could see that or hear it.
Like I feel like Unknown Place is a bit more epic. Like, it's got the vocalization, the oh, whoa, 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 and the like church organ that really harkens back to Awaken in a way. And like, that's probably the main change I would make to the tracking order. I can't really think of anything else. I do feel like if these other bonus tracks had been put on the main disc, like somewhere in the middle, it would have halted the momentum. But yeah, what do you think of each of these three songs? You said you had like thoughts on each of them.
Yeah, so starting with Unknown Place, I love the world music aspect with the percussion and the what I call the vocal chant. I thought that was a cool sort of sidestep, but it fits the album. I like that a lot. And you understand what I'm referring to, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then 1 second is enough. That's the one I thought that Jeff would have contributed to, because it sounds like it could have been a bonus track on Fly From Here or Return Trip. I just, it sort of fit that piece to a degree. I just seem to hear that influence, but for all I know, that had nothing to do with Jeff on Fly From Here. It was all Steve or Chris. I don't know. But that's the song I would have guessed was the Jeff song, but I like that song. And then Magic Potion, the vocals are just too soft on that. They should have been pushed up on the faders, but I do love Billy's old school R&B sort of bass pumping line. That was really refreshing. I can't think of a song where I've heard him play like that. That was really cool. And the chorus reminds me of something more from one of Rick Wakeman's more commercial solo works. I just can't think of what it was. I don't know if it was as far back as the album we did with Shaka Khan or something since, but something about the scales or the mode of that reminded me of that. I'm curious if anyone else noticed that at all, if you're familiar with Rick's work. But all in all, it is, like I said, a soft wind down ending. And they've been doing that since The Ladder. That's why I asked you that question earlier before we went live. Ever since The Ladder, the last song of every album is pretty departed as far as tempo and energy from the rest of the album. So maybe it's part of their formula. My sensibilities, like I said, are asking for more of a kick in the pants at the end.
Well, I think for Fly From Here, they ended with Into the Storm, and Heaven and Earth ended with Subway Walls, which is a bit heavier. But
that's true, a bit more moderate. You're right. Yeah.
But you did remind me of something. On the title track, I was kind of reminded of like I think that was another song where I would have guessed maybe Jeff co-wrote it because you have the
Oh,
do 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 do, and that reminds me very much of "Video Killed the Radio Star."
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's also a bit of that song where the music is like do 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 do, and it kind of reminds me of the way Steve House sang on an ABWH demo for what eventually became Union. It was a song called Big Love, and part of it became I Would Have Waited Forever. So I don't know if that was intentional or what, but yeah. Again, I'm kind of surprised about the writing credits thing.
Yeah. They sound more like, and maybe it is, I was going to say group contributions, but maybe they are, and the writing credits are simply just that, the writing credits, you know?
Yeah, maybe. Like on disc 2, I see that all the tracks are credited to Steve Howe, and I kind of wonder if he wanted them on a separate disc, because he was like, well, I don't want people to think that these aren't group songs or that this is like a solo thing. So I kind of wonder if there's a bit of that. Because for track 1, we got Davis and Sherwood, and tracks 2 and 3 got them again plus Howe. Living Out Their Dream, Howe and Downs, Mirror to the Sky, Davison and Howe, and Circles of Time is very John Davison. So, but yeah, I also see a few comments here. Paul Watson says, I'm enjoying Steve's vocals, complimenting John Davison in parts. Donald Taylor says, bonus tracks are all excellent. I think Magic Potion is great. And he says, Jeff is all over Unknown Place.
Unknown Place. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Tony Brown says, I think this might be in reference to Circles of Time. It says, is very moving and heartfelt, makes me a little nostalgic.
Thanks for chiming in, folks.
Yeah, so getting back to our notes, how do you think the orchestra fares overall on this album?
I think it fits, and it doesn't sound intrusive, and for all I knew, that could have been Jeff. It doesn't overtly sound like they brought in, a full orchestra. It's textural, and I think it fits really nicely. That could have been Jeff. I said that about On the Quest, that right. If I didn't know, I wouldn't know those were real strings.
Yeah. And we talked a bit about this next question already, so I'll move on to between The Quest and Mirror to the Sky. Do you know if you prefer one over the other, or do you still need this one to sink in before?
No, sure? I like I said earlier, I do feel that Mirror to the Sky is a leap somewhere. To say ahead diminishes The Quest, and I know there's a lot of people that weren't fond of The Quest, but this is just okay, now we really got it together. Do you know what I mean? I'm trying to find a way to say it without being insulting. I like this a lot better. Let's just put it that way. I love this album. I give it a very strong 8.5. And if I were to,
that's what I'd give it too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really high considering how hardcore Yes fans we are and prog fans, and me being a musician, you being a lyricist and a wordsmith, and I think that's very high praise. I hope they take it that way, if they care what we say. They've chimed in before. So I really love it. And Mirror to the Sky is something I want to listen to over and over and learn it and play to it. I'm just digging on it. It's just great. It's a great piece of music. It really is.
Yeah. In terms of which I would prefer, I feel like I'm still figuring that out, because I can tell Mirror to the Sky is steps up in terms of the musicality, but I still have fondness for some of the stuff on the Quest, and very still get in my head every now and then, Minus the Man, The Western Edge, A Living Island. I'm not sure if I prefer any of these tracks above A Living Island, which is one of my top Yes songs. It gets me very emotional, but I think from this album, Mirror to the Sky, I was thinking Circles of Time might be my favorite, but the more I listen to the title track, the more I think maybe that's my favorite off this album.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, do you have a favorite from this one?
A favorite what? Sorry?
Song?
Yeah, it's Mirror to the Sky for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just love that song. And there's so many other tracks on here. I pretty much like all of them. It's just that one that was kind of like, huh? Living out their dream to me just doesn't fit, and I'm not crazy about it. But again, there's never better or best, folks. It's what you like better or best. And that one just doesn't fit my musical taste as much.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that the song Magic Potion was originally titled It's a Good Day to Be Had by All, but Steve Howe changed it because it sounded too similar to It Will Be a Good Day.
On the latter, yeah. And they've done that over and over, very similar. It can happen. Does it really happen? Did it happen?
On,
Will it happen?
on.
Yeah, what's happening?
Yeah. I also read somewhere that Alan White, because there's overlap between The Quest and Mirror to the Sky in terms of production. You even had Curtis Schwartz as the engineer for both, so props to him. But I read somewhere Billy said that Alan was involved in very early demo stages for Mirror to the Sky and sketches and stuff. Yeah, so I kind of wonder if there are recordings and if maybe they decide not to have those as bonus tracks because maybe they want people to remember Alan's final contributions to be completed stuff on the Quest, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And maybe it'll come out on some other anthology in the future or something.
Yeah, maybe.
The new Millennia catalog gems or buried bones or something like that.
Yeah. So what do you think of Steve Howe's producer role on these last couple albums?
I think for both of them they're great. I think he does a really good job. And I loved I think I sent you that interview that you said you had seen where he's talking about the production and the sound spectrum in 5.1 and this and that. That was really insightful. I don't remember the name of the interviewer or who it was with, and there wasn't an interviewer. It was just Steve stitching the answers to questions together, and I liked seeing him talk about stuff.
Yeah, and like reading and hearing like what he says, I get the sense that he really is trying to get the band to show what they've got and try get the best of everyone in a collaborative effort. Like it doesn't feel like he's trying to be, a producer could potentially get intrusive and try do things their own way. And that could either go badly or it could sound great, but like the behind the scenes, like not everyone's happy type thing. I think everyone's working pretty well and Steve has really learned from, how things work and how to get everyone to work together.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I know that for Heaven and Earth, John Davison recently said Roy Thomas Baker was going through a tough time during that album, like some personal stuff, so that kind of affected that. But I feel like they're in a good place now, production wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those who don't know, and there might be some who don't know this, the producer's role for an album is just like the director's role of a film. The director of a film is the one who makes it look the way it looks, short of the cinematographer, but it's the director that's telling the cinematographer what they want. Whereas the producer for an album is the one that makes it sound the way it sounds.
Yeah, definitely.
So cool. We're almost an hour in already, only 3.5 hours to go.
Yeah, we're almost done with this album.
Yeah, and we got a lot to cover, so we're gonna move it along. And I'm gonna text my wife and ask her to turn on the air conditioning because it's getting stuffy in here.
Yeah, and just a little tidbit. Back during the Heaven and Earth days, Jeff and John Davison were working on like a 10 or 12 minute piece called Horizons.
That's right. Yeah.
And I saw in an interview with someone named Scott Medina, he said that the piece is still around and should emerge on a Yes album at some point. It's a matter of whether it sounded like he was saying it's a matter of whether it fits the ambiance of the album, which I totally get, because I can imagine maybe it's like something really cool and epic, but maybe wouldn't fit the atmosphere of some of the stuff on this one, you know?
Yeah, like Sound Chaser wouldn't have fit on Tormato, even if it was the same lineup.
Right, yeah. So that was from a Sonic Perspectives interview.
It makes you wonder how different it is from all this.
Yeah. Like, I hope we get that in the near future. They are working on another album, which, I mean, it's great that they're like not halting the momentum. They're feeling like the creativity and really like getting those juices flowing.
Absolutely.
So apart from that, do you have like any predictions for the next Yes album?
No, that's always been impossible to do. You know,
Okay, fair
really.
enough.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't really any that are very similar, if you think
that's
about
a good
it.
point.
So I don't. I have expectations. My expectations that it would be just another step from this going deeper into these types of sounds and compositions and whatnot.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. How about you?
I would hope Horizons shows up, but yeah, it's hard to predict like what the feel of the next one would be. But I imagine they'll probably do this 2-disc approach again. You know, have a main CD and then a few bonus things. So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe in like a year or year and a half we'll get the next one. So, and of course Roger Dean with the artwork, and always exciting to see what he can do.
Yeah.
Do you think some listeners would be less harsh if it was a different band that put out this album today?
You know, I was thinking about that. Like, if this was a new band that you never heard of and you didn't know who was on it, you go, oh, wow, that kind of sounds like Yes, but this is great music. Because, I mean, it's hard to deny that John Davison isn't in that spectrum of vocals, even when he's not sounding a lot like John Anderson. Do you know what I mean? You know, just the vocal range is there. But I think it would probably be even more well received. It's impossible to not make comparisons, and some people are just way more critical than others. There's some people that have never gotten past Close to the Edge. There's some people that have never gotten past Bill Bruford leaving. There are some people still dragging their meat into the cave and cooking it over fire.
Okay. Tony Brown, I'll get back to that real quick, but just answering his question real quick. It says, where did you hear about the song called Horizons? So I think Jeff mentioned it in the Sonic Perspectives interview, and there have been a few other places where he's mentioned it. If you go to bondigazoo.co.uk, Henry Potts's Yes News site, I'm sure he has like a history of that song somewhere on there.
Can you spell that? Bondigazoo for people?
BONDE. Let me look at it.
That's why I want you to spell it.
Okay, BONDEGEZOU. So ZOU.co.uk.
And that was a few months ago, Tony, wasn't it, Steve? That was like a few months ago that came out.
No, I think that was like within the last few weeks. The interview that
No. But I mean, the word of the fact that they were working on that song.
Oh no, that was mentioned several years ago, and then has been brought up
several years ago.
Since.
Oh wow, I was thinking several months ago. Tempest Fugit.
Right. Yeah. Donald Taylor says, I think they use the orchestra better on this album. Okay, interesting.
You know what? I agree. I'll go along with that. I agree.
Yeah. And so getting back to the John Davison thing, like he's a great vocalist, and I don't get why like much of the criticisms of this album are from people who just can't get behind John Davison. And look, it's fine if you have a preferred vocalist. Like, you know, many people prefer John Anderson. Some even said Benoit David and Trevor Horn. But Personally, I can't imagine not liking John Davison's singing at all. Like, I don't get how people can't just appreciate his singing as its own thing. Like, it's great. It's like,
This is
I really
part
appreciate it.
of what makes humans humans. It's really that simple. And when we saw them live in Phoenix in the round at the Celebrity, what year was that? When Dylan played drums as well.
2017, yeah.
Yeah. John Davison did such an amazing job with Awaken that I doted all over him.
That might have been a Yes 50 tour when we saw them in Anaheim.
Oh, okay. Well, I just remember telling him over and over and over how well of a job he did. And that's one of my favorite songs ever. So that's saying a lot coming from me. I really thought he was magnificent. And it's not that he was trying to sound just like John Anderson. Some of it he did, of course, but he just did a great job working the vocals, just like another guitar player playing it. Right. I just thought he was great. So I agree. How can you not like his voice just for the context of liking his voice, appreciating his voice? Right. All right, let's keep it moving. What's happening next?
Just one more thing about the album, and then we'll read a few fan comments. So the last I checked, the album went from number 6 to 30 on the official albums chart, and then number 4 on the UK rock and metal albums chart. So what do you think that tells us about the state of Yes and their albums and whatnot?
I think it shows that there's a lot of new appreciation out there. I don't know if it's new fans or old fans or people like us that have stayed with them through the whole thing. I'd really like to know that. There'll never be a way to find out. You'd have to poll everybody. So I'm not sure, but I'm glad that it's doing well.
Yeah, I like to think that it shows that people are open to new Yes music.
Changes!
Yeah, and I've seen the band members post about these chart results and really thinking it's really cool. So I hope that this inspires them to lean more on the newer stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm curious, and Tony has another comment. We'll get to that in just a sec, or he's replying to Donald. We'll get to that in a second. But is Steve still echoey? He was echoey because I had him turned up on my monitor and it was picking up. I don't wear earbuds or headphones. And I needed to do that. I turned him back up a little because after 54 years of playing drums, being married a few times, having a combined family of 11 kids, 19 grandkids, yeah, my hearing's a little screwed up. Excuse me.
Right. Tony Brown says, in response to Donald's orchestra comment, I agree, an orchestra can totally take over an album, but it doesn't here. It is done sparingly and tastefully and makes it so much more striking. I was afraid of the same thing when I heard about the Yes Symphonic DVD, but I was wrong, thankfully. Yeah, that was a well-done DVD. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we've got some fan reviews of the album, commented on some of our posts that I shared around. Which of these do you want to read, Dad?
Go ahead and do the first one, and we'll take turns, and I'll do the real long ones.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
So Mike Connolly says, I'm really digging the album, much more than the past few modern Yes studio albums. Interested to hear your thoughts on it. Thanks, Mike. Glad to have you as a follower of our show. He said really nice stuff about our show that I really appreciate. So, yeah, glad to have you for the ride.
Yeah, thank you. And I just saw that Steve's still echoey, so I turned him down. Sorry about that. And maybe I can move my mic a little farther from the thingy there. The monitor. Okay, next, where are we? I got to scroll back up. Sorry. Okay, then we got Roger Menito says, I think it is the best album since The Ladder. I don't understand the use of the orchestra. I am not complaining. It seems the keyboards do not have the usual footprint on this album either. I agree 100% with the orchestra versus keyboards topic. Best album since The Ladder.
Yeah,
I loved Magnification, but The Ladder is a great album. I love that album. It's one of my favorite Yes albums. Very underrated. Great production by the late great Brucey. I love that album. So that's a good take. I love that.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple people say best since Magnification, and one person say best since Relayer, which is like, wow, that's saying something, you know?
Wow. Do they know anything came out since Relayer? Well, best since Relayer, you've got Awaken.
Again, that shows how subjective everything is.
Yeah. Right? What are there, like 9 albums in between? 12?
Yeah, at least a dozen, yeah.
Yeah, wow. That's interesting. That'd be a fun conversation with that person to get their take. They probably point out some interesting things, and there might be some arguments and rolling around on the floor, but spilling drinks, but whatever.
All right, Paul Stabora says, I really like it a lot, but think Unknown Place would have been a better fit on the main disc instead of Circles of Time. So, yeah, Paul, again, like me, sees a lot in Unknown Place, but would swap it for something different than I would.
Interesting. David Wendell responded by saying, Paul, both are really good, but Circle of Time is a nice ending after the frenzied title track. With the exception of Key's Studio, his second favorite album, I think it is the best album Yes has done since Going for the One. Wow. How interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not arguing. I just think that's so interesting when you look at the body of most bands have never put out a body of work as wide as the gap that we're talking about, let alone, you know what I mean? Like, that's so interesting. Since Going for the One, I just love that so many people have so many different sensibilities in their relationship with Yes music, that there's these, when I say crazy takes, I don't mean like, you're crazy. That's not what I mean. Wide span of takes. You know, if someone says it's their favorite since Time in a Word, I need to talk to them. I mean, that's someone ate some magic mushrooms or something.
Right. Or magic
I like
potion.
how Steve just brushes my shit aside. Okay, keep going, Steve. Okay, I'll do Jim's. Jim Voight says, or is it Voix? I enjoy elements of every track, but it doesn't really move me overall. The one that comes closest is definitely the title track. I think Steve's initial guitar melody is really strong, and there are definitely some epic moments, but the piece just doesn't break through for me. I think the lyrics and vocals are what holds a lot of the songs back as well. I put on From a Page after listening to Mirror in the Sky for the second time, and every song there is just loaded with emotion. Every track brings me to tears, but the new album doesn't grab me that way. Well, first of all, I appreciate your take. I'm sure Steve does too. And I do love that you qualify over and over that that relates to how you feel about it. Because too many people just say, that sucks. It doesn't have this and that. And they don't relate it to what they like. So that's very mature, which a lot of musicians and music fans are not when it comes to this kind of thing.
Yeah, because a lot of the negative reviews that I see here and there, like, kind of say the same thing as if they're parroting stuff. So stuff like this, where it's more nuanced, I find them more interesting, you know?
And Donald Taylor's prognosticating possibly Horizons being on the next album. That would be great. It's like such a tease not hearing a glimpse of that, only that it's a long piece and who it was written by. Like, what's behind that curtain?
Yeah, I also see Dave Watkinson's comment. When you get to the point of packaging, I have to say that between Roger Dean and the Gottlieb brothers, the quality is stunning. Be it the booklet, photos, text, printing, fonts. We forget how well Yes do this stuff. Quality.
Yeah, they got this shit down for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Simon Capelhorn says, I've been disappointed with their recent material, but I think this is outstanding. Best they've done in 20 years, arguably the best since Talk, albeit a totally different style and lineup. Very well done. A great return to form. Yeah, that's an interesting take. Like, Talk was I love Talk, and it's such a different album, you know, and that
and it also shows that they weren't. I'm sorry. It also shows that they weren't that fond of other stuff in between, which is weird. But if you're a huge Trevor fan, you know, I'm just guessing here. I'm not saying this is the case. I'm sorry. What was that, Simon? I'm not saying this is the case with you. But if someone entered Yes verse with the Trevor era and everything on either side of that is just weird to them, this makes that's a huge compliment. So I'm curious what your context is, how much of the music you're familiar with. You don't have to say how old you are, but at what point did you enter listening to Yes? I think the context of these comments, the best since Relay, or the best since Talk, the best since Going for the One, I'd love to know those answers to those questions because it's partly telling, right? To some degree, don't you think?
Yeah. I see Barry Bartle just chimed in saying, hard not to make comparisons. The quest for me is in terms alike to the Yes album and Fragile. Mirror to the Sky is alike to Close to the Edge and Going for the One. All beautiful albums.
Interesting. Nice. Chris Ilardo says the title track cut from the stars, but the title track is mirrored to
No, he's listing them.
Sorry?
There's a comma. He's listing them.
Oh, title track. Okay, and then Cut from the Stars and Surprisingly Circle of Time. Davidson's beautiful acoustic song that closes out the album proper are all great. So that's a different take on the way the album closes than the way I feel. And I know some people just love that thing. I know that I'm probably more the minority to say, yeah, I want the last song to just kick ass. You know, some people like, it's just like a workout. You got to cool down at the end and it ends the show. I respect that. That's cool. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, and then we get Rob Lane, and this was from like a week ago, I think. Gave an initial listen, admittedly not a fan of the last few John Davison-led lineups and albums they produced. I think I'd like it more if they weren't calling themselves Yes, but that sentiment has been beaten to death and I've already gone there and contributed to it. Honestly, I did enjoy many parts of it, particularly the near 14-minute title track. In many cases, it was the first time for me that Davison wasn't trying to be John Anderson and even sang some bits in what sounded to be a deliberately lower register. Will I give it additional listens? Yes, I will. So that's interesting because sometimes you hear different comments of if Davison is trying to be Anderson or is not enough like Anderson. So it's kind of interesting.
And I know, like you say, Rob, it's been beaten to death, but I just want to chime in. This Yes is no more different from the time in the than the Yes album Yes than Relayer was, or Talk, or 90125, or name 10 Yes albums, and they're all such different lineups from the first two albums that to me that's why that's been beaten to death, because it's almost irrelevant. That's just my personal take. I'm not arguing. I respect your take, but would you agree, Steve? I mean, it's no more different than my examples.
Right. Yeah. I think lots of people get attached to the singer aspect, and John Anderson is great, but I feel like saying the people who think John Anderson is Yes, I think diminishes the contributions of the other members of each lineup, if that makes sense.
So that's a great point. If there was an album that was Jay Schellen, Billy Sherwood, Jeff Downs, Steve Howe, and John Anderson, would people have a problem calling it Yes? I bet not, based on exactly what you just said. So it's a contextual thing that people get married to, like a barnacle stuck on the hull of a ship. And if there's anything different going on up on deck, it's like all of a sudden, I'm detaching myself from that hull. It's not the same ship.
Right. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, I do. And I respect that. I just don't agree with it. I respect everybody's opinions. And I'm teasing, folks. I really, truly do. I've learned in life, at my ripe old age, that everyone has different opinions for different reasons and a different model of the world, even when it comes to their favorite band or their not so favorite band. We don't have to agree to respect and appreciate. That's my point. Ask my kids. Steve's the youngest of the 11, by the way. All right, I feel like I need to get to know this album. It sounds more forthright and stronger than The Quest. I agree. I kept going for the invisible fader to push up Jeff Downs keyboards and, for me, vocals. Standout songs for me are Luminosity with its bookend style structure. I like that. I really enjoyed the chord progression of the opening and closing segments. The title track opens with a guitar riff that reminded me of Neil Young. Interesting. This song had unexpected twists and turns where I was able to get lost in the mood of the whole thing. The orchestra here takes a wonderful role and really blends in with the band without taking over. Everyone's been saying that, so I love that. That's a huge compliment to Steve. Howe for the way he did the production. I found myself liking Living Out Their Dream as a rockier yes on that song. Overall, it punches more than the Quest, and I can listen to the more mellow moments knowing it's not all going to be like that. Sorry, personal inside giggle there that came out. The mix sounds balanced and the guitar having more guts than the previous recordings. I just wished Jeff Downs was louder. This is worth persisting at. Like most albums, they take time to absorb and truly understand, but initial listening makes me want to hear more. I agree with that 100%, and I would add the vocals to Let's Push Those Invisible Faders Up. And it's also, for me, regarding Jeff, not just him being louder, but more of him in the presence of the music, in the presence of, yeah.
All right, yeah. So thanks for that comment, Andrew Moore.
Absolutely, Andrew. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Steve, with Keith.
Yeah, Keith D. Thomas says, pleasantly surprised, it feels like the triumph of persistence. Now they've listened more to what fans are hoping for, faster pace, more aggressive bass work, etc., and have come out with something really nice, and it has some pleasant surprises. Even vocally, it's better than the last couple albums. And then, did you want to read this next one, or shall I read these last two?
I'll read that, and I do like that take.
Okay.
Nick Kokoshis, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Kokoshis says, 2 listens and I'm hooked. I think it's going to end up in my top 10 yes list. Wow. And I'm presuming he's a fan with a breadth of yes listening experience, I'm assuming. Where did we go here? Sorry. Thinking along the lines of best since 77, which would be going for the one, although Drama might be in battle with the new one since Steve Howe did such an amazing arrangements on that one as well. And I do love Tormato. So do we. So does Oliver Wakeman. So I might have to reconsider.
And so does Kevin Mulrine, who's the Tormato storybook is now available from Burning Shed, so looking forward to reading that.
Yeah, that's some real complimentary stuff. The best since 77. Again, it makes me think of all the albums that came out since then. You got Magnification,
really
you got Keys, you got the Trevor era, you got Drama, you got just so much. That's so interesting to me.
Right. Then we got John Kuhn, who says, I love Drama. Married to the Sky is more progressive, less dark, a fresh, modern, creative gem with a great groove. For now, Married to the Sky beats the amazing Drama, and definitely is better than the disjointed Keys. Love Mind Drive and Children of Light, but the rest seems like a different band. Billy captured some of the best soaring yes vocals of the production on a very fractional album with Keys. Mirror is cohesive with a very refined vocal and orchestral mix. Top 10 for sure.
That's great. I love hearing all this great feedback. I do.
Yeah. All right. So that'll do for Married to the Sky. So now onto the Classic Tales of Yes tour. So this is happening in 2024. I believe these are and we have a graphic, I think.
You can all read that, right, folks? Especially if you're watching on your phone.
Right. So this tour for 2024 taking place in, I'm trying to see if it's in England, but they are also planning some autumn dates for the U.S. Jeff said in an interview on the Domino Elf, we're going to the States in the autumn and do a tour there. We're going to do a bit of Tales because it's a 50th. We're also going to be touching in on quite a bit of Yes's history, as well as incorporating stuff from the new albums, plural. It's important for the band to recognize not just the older material, but also some of the new stuff we've done in recent years, because I think that's what the fans really want.
That's good to hear, because Mirror to the Sky, I want to see and hear that live.
Yeah, so that brings me to my next question, which is what songs from Mirror to the Sky do you think Yes will most likely play, and which ones do you hope that they might play?
Oops, wrong button. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to find my note. Where'd my note go? Bear with me. I don't have the set list. Oh, yeah, I do on the same doc. Sorry. Definitely in no particular order. Cut from the Stars, Luminosity, Mirror to the Sky, Unknown Place, 1 Second Is Enough would be. I'd be happy if they played all that. And not that I don't like the others, but I know they're not going to play the whole album, so I'm being selective number wise.
Yeah, I think.
What do I think they play versus what do I want? That's hard for me to. That's too much brain power for me right now. I'll say both lists.
All right. Yeah, I think Cut from the Stars has a good shot because I feel like that's the one that people have gotten most familiar with. Since
it's the first release, so it's like the single.
Yeah, maybe All Connected as well. That's kind of what they did with The Quest. They played the first 2 songs from that live. What I would really love for them to do is, like, Mirror to the Sky, the title track. Like, if they played only that, like, I'd be happy,
Yeah, but they'll play more.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm also curious whether stuff from The Quest might carry over. They did the Ice Bridge and Dared to Know last year. So I'm curious if they'll do those or maybe switch it up a little.
Mm-hmm.
The Classic Tales of Yes tour ad mentions they'll possibly play from the new album, and the poster does include the album cover for Mirror to the Sky, so that's a good sign there. I also think that this tour title, this is what they should have been doing for the last good while. The Relayer thing got delayed until they got to a point where they decided that they're not going to do Relayer. And, just the false starts kind of soured the experience for them, it seems like. And I really feel like the whole album series thing, Steve Howe said in an interview that there will still be album series stuff. But personally, speaking for myself, I think that they should have retired the album series thing because, they started doing that with like the Yes album, Fragile, and going for the one Close to the Edge. And it was like, okay, they're more or less celebrating 45 years of Yes. And then they did Topographic Drama a couple years later.
I'd rather see shows that have more of a wide mix of material.
Yeah, because the tour title, like Yestival, Yes 50, Classic Tales of Yes, like I like the ambiguousness of the title, and it allows more wiggle room for them. Like they don't have to play an entire certain album, and I think it alleviates the pressure. So I'm kind of surprised that Steve Howe said there will still be album series stuff later, I guess. Like what albums, like he ruled out Tormato, said don't expect Tormato in the near future, but it's like they've done like all the other 70s stuff that he's on and drama. So it's like, what more could they do? Like, I think it would be cool if they did the first album and Time in the Word if they returned to the album series. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole thing? Like the current tour title and the album series thing?
I like the latter as opposed to the album series. Like I'm good if they don't do album series stuff anymore.
Right.
Does that answer your question or was there more?
No, I think it pretty much answers it. Like,
okay.
I feel like it's a lesson in marketing. Like, if the Relayer tour hadn't been billed as a Relayer tour and something more ambiguous like this, then
no one would have ever known that they decided to cut those songs.
Right. And what's kind of unfortunate is that, they did play Gates of Delirium on the Royal Affair tour, but it did not appear on the Royal Affair live album. I guess because they were really expecting that they'd be able to record the Relayer tour and have it on that album. So I hope that I hope that they have something like that in the archives, and
maybe there'll be a reissue. Certainly they filmed it. Yeah, but I could see, I could totally see Future Times popping up somewhere on a tour. That'd be so cool. I love that song, Future Times and Rejoice. That'd be great.
Yeah, Dave Watkinson comments, I think they will do Future Times, the new epic, Mirror to the Sky, Revealing, To Be Over, Clap, Starship Trooper, Roundabout. That would be a cool set. Paul Watson says it would be interesting for them playing Mirror to the Sky live, seeing what Jeff would include to compensate the lack of orchestra, whether they will be playing it, save and use an overdub from the album. Yeah, I think they probably programmed the orchestra stuff into his equipment, probably.
Yeah, or he'll just play it.
Yeah.
I mean, he could
Gilly,
just physically play it rather than it be sequenced.
Right.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, Gilly Good News says congrats on 100 episodes. Thank you. But
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, you were saying?
Yeah, it just said thank you. Yeah, 100 episodes. That's crazy.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just Yeah, because it's one thing to say in an interview, oh, we're thinking of doing this, but to actually advertise, oh, we're gonna do this album, like that puts more pressure. So
Yeah,
I kind of want to go back to just, oh, we're considering this, but not advertising the whole.
I don't want to
set list
know.
on
I'd
the
rather
thing.
just not know. You know,
Right.
I'd rather be surprised every time they play a song, and
Yeah.
not listen to YouTube, not watch for bootleg stuff until I see the show. That's the way it used to be. You know, I loved not knowing what they were going to play next. I loved that.
Yeah. So
For any band. That goes for any band.
Yeah, so I understand the frustrations with the whole relayer thing. I kind of got used to the possibility it might not be played, so I'm kind of not surprised. But you kind of had an idea of how they could represent it on this upcoming tour if they wanted to, right, Dad?
Yeah, I illustrated to Steve Schinder that I kind of sung or charted out verbally a medley of that album, cutting from this part to that part to this part. And it's like, that got so in my head, I thought of actually, with my mountain of available time, editing the piece in my head together. The way that guy did it with Tales from Topographic Oceans, which, by the way, I'd love to see them play what that guy did, the excerpts put together. But I could totally see a relayer medley done right and not just mailing it in. Not that they would do that, but I mean where there's a nice, juicy elements of each piece and make it work. I could totally see that. Make it a 20-minute piece,
Right.
15 minutes, whatever.
Yeah, I think that would be a nice, what's the word?
Homage to the album, which they should
Yeah.
do after 50 years. And it would
compromise. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
okay. And it would surprise everybody with each pivot. Like, oh, that part. Oh, now they
Yeah.
jump to that song. That's the element of that surprise is important, I think.
Yeah. So if they are considering playing anything from Tales, what do you think they might play?
I think they'll play, I might be wrong. I think they'll play the obvious or do a medley. And if they do a medley, I'd like a piece of each movement.
Right, yeah.
I'd love Leaves of Green and, stuff from the Ancient and the Remembering to be, given a nod. We haven't heard that since just a few seconds on the Big Generator tour with Steve and Chris.
Right, because we know John Davison really wants to do the Remembering, and
Remembering,
Steve Howe's
yeah.
aware of that. And Steve Howe had nice things to say about the Ancient in a recent interview. So
it'd be mind blowing if they did those two pieces or stitched them together somehow. The first half of one, second half of the other. Are you listening, Steve? How are you taking notes? We'll email you.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. What other classics do you think they might include in the set list other than the obvious ones?
It's a tough question to ask given something you said earlier, which is in consideration of what they have played over the last few years with Close to the Edge. And, so I'd love South Side of the Sky, bring back Long Distance Runaround, Mind Drive, Mirror to the Sky.
Would be a surprise, yeah.
Yeah, a relayer medley, a Tales medley. I mean, that's pretty much a whole set right there, unless they're going to go back to 3-hour, concerts. Please don't have an opening band.
Right.
I think stuff like that and some of that stuff is, I would say, is considered to be deep cuts.
Yeah, I would say Future Times and throw in something from the Banks era, like
Yeah.
maybe play Astral Traveler again, or go
Oh,
even
yeah.
deeper, play Then, or what's the other song? The Prophet, that's a deep one. You could do something like even the first track from the first album, Beyond and Before, but those will be like really deep cuts, but
So
really surprises, yeah.
let's go even deeper. If you could pick two things from the Trevor era to throw in there, what would it be? I know right off the top of my head.
Okay, I think
Three
I'm
things,
running.
actually. Sorry, I'm going to be selfish and make it three.
Okay, I think I'm running would be really cool to do. You know, there's that bass bit that could be a really nice tribute to Chris. Our song would be a huge surprise. I don't know if they'd
Oh,
ever do
wow.
that, but
Yeah.
that would be cool.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. I was thinking more
And
epic-y.
and they'll never do this, but maybe try to see if they could emulate State of Play somehow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Steve could step up to a slide guitar and do that. That'd be great.
Yeah,
For
I
me,
know it won't happen, but yeah, go
it
with
won't.
us.
For me, it would be The Miracle of Life.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Can't
And it
change
would
all my
be,
answers.
yeah, that section from Talk that I did the excerpt in for the Christian Allen thing. Bam, 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 dun, 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 bam, bam, bam,
Oh, Endless Dream?
yeah, that part of Endless Dream. So not even the whole song, just that whole instrumental section. What was the other one I said? Miracle of Life, and the other one would be Nobody Move, No One Gets Hurt. I'll think of it. I had it. It was
Which album is it from?
Hearts.
Oh,
Hearts.
yeah, that'd be
It'd be
cool.
great to have Hearts. And I could
Yeah.
totally hear Billy doing some of the secondary vocals, sailing down the river. I could just hear them do that. And at this point, why not? Everyone else is playing something that someone else recorded. Why can't Steve?
Right, yeah, because Steve Howe said in his autobiography a few years back that the band doesn't feel a sense of ownership over the Trevor stuff. But I know that Billy, John Davison, and probably Jay Schellen as well would really probably be down to play the
Yeah, it's
Trevor
part of the
Wakeman era stuff.
history. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's part of the history. It'd be great. It probably won't happen, and that's still okay. There's plenty of great music. Moving
right.
on.
Yeah. One last thing regarding the
Fly me
touring
to the
stuff.
moon. No, go ahead.
Yeah, one last thing regarding the touring stuff is like recently on our Vegas trip, a friend of ours, Sean, was talking about Frank Sinatra and how there's like some show where apparently Frank Sinatra was really high up there in age and told the audience, look, I need to read the stuff on paper. I can't do it like the same way I used to.
He had the lyrics
but
like on a teleprompter, and this is
Yeah.
Sean Kelly, who is the husband of our event planner, Jerice Kelly. So Sean was at the 10-year Drum Talk TV 10-year anniversary celebration. That's who Steve's referring to. But yeah,
Yeah,
he was
so-
talking about. Yeah, go ahead. Continue. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
so paraphrasing that, Frank Sinatra was saying he couldn't do all the stuff like he used to, but he still like really enjoys playing on stage and wants to do it. And I feel like people who see like some of these older bands, they can get really harsh, like, oh, this isn't exactly how I want it to be, but try appreciating it from the perspective of, they're doing what they love to do. They're giving it a shot, they're still doing it.
And they're still here to do it. Yeah, and I've
so-
seen Ozzy read from a teleprompter for years. I saw Geddy Lee read from teleprompters when he was in his late 40s. So, it's like I said, when we were having that discussion with him, I mentioned, for fans, we listen to their music more than the band does. Like the band is more concentrated on what they're recording now, what they're putting out now. And when they pull out songs from 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, they might not have listened to that since the last tour they played it on 15 years ago. So to just then go out on tour, sometimes you need a teleprompter or some charts or some music or some notes. And I don't have a problem with that. Look at an orchestra. An orchestra can't memorize anything. An orchestra has to read sheet music from the beginning of the song to the end. So cut some people some slack.
Yeah. All right. So we'll just have to see what they do for the upcoming touring. But next we have on here, Yessongs, the album, turned 50 this month. So, Dad, you pretty much know this album like the back of your hand, right? Like you grew up with it. So, like, what for you are the highlights from this and like memories and whatnot?
So we're talking specifically about the album and not the film, correct?
Right, because we talked about the film several months ago.
Yeah. First of all, when it came out, and my first two Yes albums that I purchased earlier, my older cousin loaned me Fragile when it came out, but that wasn't mine. But then when I got Close to the Edge and Yessongs at the same time, and then I saw the movie when it came out. But the mind-blowing, you talk about early epic packaging, I don't think anything of that era compares to Yessongs. Led Zeppelin's The Song Remains the Same comes close because you open it up and there's like pages, which was really cool. But that much Roger Dean art on one album was freaking epic. I just loved that. Musically, given the time, again, recorded December of 72, correct, Steve?
Yeah.
So
well, some of it, like
right.
bits of it might have been earlier, and they're also.
But that's okay. My point is, given
is
that given the time, the way it sounds, and the gear they had to work with, it's a great album. And I'm not into listening to remasters. I want to hear it the way it was originally put out. And sometimes that's frustrating for me when I'm looking for something specific on YouTube and everything's remaster. You got to put in original and the year, original release. Like, I just want to hear the original version. I love the warmth of that album. The analog, comes through. The fact that it's got three pieces with Bill Bruford, or two. It's Long Distance Run Around the Fish and Perpetual Change.
Perpetual Change.
Yeah, a solo by Bill.
Solo
by Bill Bruford. It's so cool that just like with Genesis Seconds Out, you get some of the Bill Bruford tour and then you get Chester Thompson. This is great, except the Alan White wasn't just a touring musician. This was his first album he recorded with Yes. He was 22, 23, and the whole album is just great. The iconic beginning of the concert with Firebird Suite and a Siberian True into Heart of the Sunrise, which I used to rock you to sleep to from the time you were an infant. I probably couldn't pick you up now and cradle you. It was such a plethora of amazing music produced very well live and captured very well live. And Steve's brother made the film, correct? Steve Howe's brother?
Yeah, he shot it, I believe. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I heard it around the time it came out. Whereas, when were you first exposed to it? Not from me putting it on here and there, but when you got it and immersed yourself in it. How old were you, and about what year was that? And where was that in your Yes journey?
I think I was around 14 when I got the CD.
And what had you heard prior? Where was that in the lineage of your listening journey?
I'd heard, I think, pretty much all of the Atlantic Yes studio albums, at least, and like some of the later ones.
Okay, so it pretty much came in context of when it came out, other than a couple later ones.
Yeah, like I'd heard the majority of the Yes catalog before getting the Yessongs CD.
Up to that time when you were 14.
Yeah, in 2008. Yeah. Okay. And I gave it another listen last night, actually, and you're right. It has like such a warm sound. Like, it's so classic. It has my favorite version of The Fish, probably. It's so raw, and like all the jamming and soloing throughout the album, like on Yours Is No Disgrace and Starship Trooper, just brilliant closer. And listening to this version of Siberian True again, Like, it was so good, and it made me appreciate more how they were able to replicate that on keys to Ascension, and just made that sound like a triumphant return when that lineup
Yeah,
did that again.
1,000%. I agree. 1,000%. Yeah. We'd love your take, folks. Where does it sit with your favorite live albums list? Where does it sit as far as the recording and the production? Where does it sit with your yesness? Answer all of those in
Right.
that order. No cheating.
Yeah, and I do
I think
think
it's one of
this
the best
is
live albums ever.
yeah, like I think I saw a post by Total Mass Retain because I think they're performing these three albums as saying Yessongs, Tales, and Relayer are like the best three consecutive progressive rock albums. And I think I agree because I prefer those studio albums over Close to the Edge, and Yessongs just already has Close to the Edge plus stuff from Fragile on the Yes album and the solo stuff. And I really think Yessongs is a great gateway for anyone who wants to check out Yes and see what they're all about, especially the classic period, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Great, great album. 50 years old. That's just mind blowing.
Yeah. All right. Paul Watson says Hal's brother edited it, four others filmed it. Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, definitely a monumental live album.
And
Now
Gilly,
we're
good news, says Yours Is No Disgrace on Yessongs is my favorite track. Steve was on fire. Yeah, he was, absolutely. And in um, uh, Perpetual Change also is, everything's really good, but you're right, that solo is just biting. You can feel the teeth biting.
yeah.
It's so good. And the raw
Yeah.
sound, you watch the movie here in 2028 or whatever year we're in, I don't keep track anymore. And you look at the gear that they were playing with, there weren't keyboard stands, and Rick's got his stuff just stacked on tables and on top of each other, and you got the curly old fashioned chords and just the twin bass reverb. Just you look at the gear and how awesome it sounds, and with all the technological advances since then, that's still the best sounding shit ever. The song remains the same. Bursting Out by Jethro Tull, just alive. Frampton Comes Alive. The live albums of that period are so epic sounding.
Yeah, for sure.
UFO Live, just all that older stuff is just brilliant. It really is.
Yeah, it definitely won't be forgotten by the fans. All right, so now we'll move into the birthdays section. So recently, Bill Bruford, speaking of him, turned 74. The King Crimson site, dgmlive.com, made a nice post about him. There was also like a nice photo of him with some other musicians. I think he celebrated it. So if you could like pull that up, and I could read off the post like who's present in the photo.
Sorry. Yes. And that would be this one. And I forgot to bring up the Yessongs album cover. I was so wrapped up. Sorry. Let's give that a nod real quickly. There we go. Yessongs. There it is. Just such an epic cover.
Right. So, yeah, and in the Bill Bruford photo, he says from left to right, Malcolm Crease, bassist, Tim Garland, saxophones, bass clarinet, an intruder called Bill, that's him, and Gwilym Simcock, pianist. So he says Tim and Gwill were, of course, A-Team Earthworkers, but this occasion featured their trio with Malcolm, acoustic triangle, plus a Royal Holloway Choir conducted by Rupert Goff. The highlight of the evening was the world premiere of a piece especially written by Tim Garland entitled Bird Songs. I never use this word, but on this occasion I must. Stunning. Yeah, that's really cool. And Bill Bruford also recently posted about how Earthworks Live in Santiago got released somewhat recently, and so 5 years of heavy lifting have ended. We're happy to announce that all titles on Summerfold Records, Earthworks, and other near jazz products And Winterfold Records, the Bruford catalog, and other near rock projects are now readily available digitally and physically as standalone items at or from Cherry Red Records, Spotify, Apple Music, or Bill's official store. So, yeah, and of course his YouTube channel is always getting updated with some stuff. It's cool to see that. So, yeah, very expansive career Bill Bruford has had, right? Yeah. It was great having him on the show, over a year ago now.
Yeah.
And, yeah, very great jazz drummer. And of course, he had his contributions to rock. So glad he was able to. Sorry, Mike almost fell. So, yeah, happy birthday to Bill. And always great to celebrate his music and contributions and whatnot.
Absolutely.
All right. Another recent birthday was Rick Wakeman. The Yes official page shared something from the early 2000s, I believe, where he played a bit of Close to the Edge on piano. And I also saw there was an unboxing video where Rick was unboxing the Progeny box set, with some Yes shows from 72. And I was honestly surprised to see him doing that because I'm so used to thinking that, okay, current band members will take part in the unboxing of current products, but Rick was involved in those recordings, so it was really cool to see him in that unboxing video.
Absolutely.
And he and Oliver took part in a charity concert called The Other Coronation Concert on May 6th. They also took part in a Straub's documentary that's been being filmed, so very excited to see that. We have a picture of Rick with Oliver, as well as Oliver's son, Arthur, and Gordon Giltrap and Kerry Martin as well. So if you could pull that up and
it's up.
Read this. Yep. Yeah, and we got a comment from Bill Sandals, who attended that coronation concert. It says, "It was quality from beginning to end. I didn't record the set list, but Oliver played some of Jabberwocky with Arthur, that's his son, and a rather nice piece called Flower of England. Carrie played pieces from her new album Evergreen. Gordon's set included a passionate, hard song as fresh as when he first played it. Rick Wakeman, Eleanor Rigby, And You and I, Life on Mars, Space Odyssey, Wondrous Stories." And Rick also posted an update on his recent and future stuff. He says, "So far during this month, I've also had meetings in order to set up a performance of the New Gospels, which is a few small rewrites and musical additions, will reappear under the title of Christus. The venue has yet to be confirmed, but it will be in either Norfolk or Suffolk on Easter Monday next year, which, believe it or not, falls on April Fool's Day. It will be performed with a new tenor after the sad passing of Ramon Remedios, and similarly as regards the narrator, as Garfield Morgan is no longer with us either. There will be a lineup of myself, Oliver Wakeman on keyboards, as well as and percussionist and guitarist, as well as some orchestral musicians and a choir." So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And he also said on his website that his upcoming one-man show, Grumpy Old Rick, or whatever he likes calling it, the one that's happening in the U.S. later this year, might be his last one-man show tour. He'll still do stuff with the English rock ensemble, but he mentions how, because of arthritis, he can't do the one-man show thing as well, and we'll need other musicians. So it's nice that he's open about that and, giving people the heads up that, hey, this might be your last chance to see the one-man show.
Yeah, he does look a little like grumpy old Rick here.
Yeah, I saw another photo where I think one of them was absent from the other one, but Rick is smiling in it. So there's also a box set coming out June 9th called The Prog Years. This first 500 will be signed by Rick Wakeman, contains rare live material, demos, alternate mixes, and live film footage. So this is his stuff, I guess, from his concept album, Six Lives, Myths and Legends, Journey, Listomania, No Third Connection, White Rock, and Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Awesome.
A 1976 quadrophonic concert, previously unreleased. So, yeah, that seems very exciting.
Yeah, and I want to mention to folks we're coming up on 2 hours. It's our 100th episode, and coincidentally, just have a lot to cover. We got a
Yeah.
couple more birthdays. We got a
We're
remembrance and
almost done.
some other stuff. So we'll be done about another hour and a half. Hang in there. Just kidding. I think we'll probably be done about 15, 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah, and Wakeman also says he has a 2-hour show on July 21st as part of the.
I don't feel so bad now.
As part of the Marylebone Music Festival with Adam Wakeman and Haley Sanderson.
I just love that he's still so active. I just love that, you know.
Yeah, it's got a lot of stuff in the
And a lot
works.
of different stuff. He's doing so many different things, not just the same thing, which is really cool.
Yeah. And of course, Jay Schellen, we mentioned it was his birthday. So again, congrats on your first studio album as a full-time Yes member, and looking forward to seeing you perform live with them again. Yeah. And I want to give a brief shout out to Jimmy Hahn, since his birthday was the other day. You know, I know
Absolutely.
Union wasn't for everyone, but Jimmy got the job done. And he's played with Billy and some other Yes members and other things like Circa and now Arc of Life.
Yeah.
And you know, it's cool that we have both Arc of Life and Yes, and are kind of seeing like what makes them different. You know, you need to have Kurzer and Hahn involved with this one, and Downs and Howe involved with that one. It's interesting to like see the parallel paths with those and seeing the steps forward each band is taking.
Yeah, and wasn't Jimmy in World Trade with Billy?
I believe so. Yeah, I know he's known the Sherwoods for a long time, so
yeah,
probably.
I believe that's the case.
Yeah, I'm looking that up real quick.
And then I'll go through some remembrances.
Okay, maybe not, but yeah.
No, okay, maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Speaking of remembering and remembrances, of course, the other day, yesterday, day before 26th, was the 1 year anniversary of Alan White's passing. And it's, for me, having known Alan since 1989, it was one of those where were you when moments. And I remember that morning, Enja and I, my wife Enja, and I were packing up in a fifth wheel to come home from a week away. And the news just popped up on my phone, and I was just shocked. Alan was a good friend. He was one of my biggest musical influences ever. He was just such a nice man. And he was a huge supporter of Drum Talk TV. I think he was on the show like 5 times. We gave him our very first award, the Prague Legacy Award at the 2020 NAMM show at the Drum Talk TV booth. And I'm going to pull up just this wonderful picture. I'm pretty sure this was at one of the weddings of either Jesse or Cassie, his 2 kids. Just such a humble, down-to-earth guy, and an amazing player. He could pretty much do anything and adapt to anything. When you look at State of Play, Owner of a Lonely Heart, and Relayer, and Gates of Delirium, and everything in between, you know, he whatever it needed, he brought it. You know, the consummate musician that could just do everything. I have so much more to say, but you can go to the Drum Talk TV page after we're done or whenever, and you could search or just look up Dan Schinder, Alan White tribute. And I reposted the one from last year from after he passed. I reshared it to our page yesterday. So it's not far down the timeline of the Drum Talk TV page if you want to check that out. And I play everything, a wide range of music from Tormato to Relayer to Close to the Edge to just a lot of different stuff. He was just such a great influence. I think there's a lot of him in my playing and technicalities and dynamics and things like that I really picked up from his playing over the years. So Alan White, we miss you, but we don't miss your music because it's still with us. So thank you.
Right, yeah. Like, with the music here, it's like he's always here.
Yeah, and then Vangelis, also a year later.
Yeah, I was just about to say real quick that the Yes page made a nice post of like Alan White's music history, and Billy had some nice things to say about him, and Chris as well on his page. So,
I mean, he
him,
played
Jay,
on Imagine.
miss him.
He played on Imagine by John Lennon. That's like the most iconic song of a generational era.
Yeah.
Imagine. But he also recorded with George Harrison. Just amazing career. Amazing. Yeah. So Vangelis, an amazing contributor to the world of music, did a lot of work, of course, with John Anderson, but a lot more work on his own a year later. And Francis Monkman passed away that was like within the last week, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah, something like that. On Vangelis, real quick, I just want to correct myself and say, on our previous broadcast, I said that the John and Vangelis song, He Is Sailing, was on the 5th episode of Fired from Mars on HBO Max. Well, it's called Max now, but what I actually meant was I Hear You Now. So that's the song that's on there. Still surprising. But yeah, Vangelis, a huge legend. And yeah, Francis Monkman passed away from, I'm just looking up the date when that, it was May 11th. So.
Oh, okay. Couple weeks, 3 weeks.
Yeah. Apparently what I'm reading says that he passed away from cancer. So, but yeah, contributed to Curved Air, and there was that weird thing with the Ice Bridge. Jeff mistaking one of the tapes he had for Francis Monkman. I'm glad that they straightened that out and that Monkman got credit while he was still around. Like, even from that one album we listened to recently, Tempest Fugit, we could tell he had a lot of talent, and so he's a good musician in his own right. And then John Giblin also passed away recently, bassist who contributed on John Anderson's Song of Seven and Animation albums, but he also worked with Brand X, Eric Clapton, Peter Gabriel, just Simple Minds. Kate Bush had some nice things to say about John. So, this guy has been around. So,
that's a huge spectrum of music to play across,
Yeah. And I don't know of any Yes connection, but I know that Tina Turner passed away recently. Yeah. That's a big loss in the
Gotta
music
give
world.
her a mention. Just one of the most iconic entertainers of the last 50, 60, 70 years. Yeah. And also for women entertainers and vocalists and songwriters, and she influenced a lot of people with her music of a lot of different instruments. I see over and over a lot of my drummer friends posting what an influence her music was on them. And something I kind of forgot about, our friend of Drum Talk TV and personal friend, Alvin Taylor, played with Tina and Ike. And I think he might be the drummer on Proud Mary. And like we interviewed him on Drum Talk TV not that long ago, and I kind of forgot about that because he's done so much stuff. And that's it doesn't get more iconic than that, playing with an artist like that, let alone on a hit like that. So just amazing lady. And she broke out of the dark place she was in with Ike and just kicked ass and never looked back.
Right, yeah. So all those people gone but not forgotten. All right, so now we'll zoom through this other stuff real quick. This is recent and upcoming releases. So there's a remix of Owner of a Lonely Heart by Luca Olivato. It's actually on the Yes official YouTube channel.
It's amazing. When I first started hearing it, Steve sent it to me right before we went live, pretty much, or a little while before we went live. And when I didn't look at anything, I just started listening, and I thought, did Virgil do this? I thought it might have been something Virgil did at first.
Oh, yeah. I'm not sure that I hear that, but I could kind of imagine people could put this remix on at the mall or in a clothing store.
Yeah, it is really cool. It is so cool. I dig it, and I don't even listen to that kind of music. And you'll see what I mean, folks, when you check it out. Steve's going to pop the link in the comments, but it is super freaking cool. I think no matter what kind of music you like, the textures, and it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. And recently, there was a record store day release for Yes Live in Knoxville, and that's from the Progeny box set. So it got released as like its own thing. And Asia also had a record store day release yesterday for the Phoenix album, the first album by the Reunion lineup era, back in 2008. I get nostalgic thinking about the time when that came out, and I know you thought that like it was like very ballady, but I was just like really excited to hear like new Asia music from that original lineup again. And
That's
they
true,
eventually progressed, and with their next couple albums went heavier. So it's kind of a similar trajectory with Yes Now, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Original Sin by The Sin, which featured Chris Squire and Peter Banks on archival stuff, is being re-released on vinyl by Gwirson Records on June 19th in black vinyl and limited edition orange marbled vinyl.
That is so cool. And I wonder what the orange connection is. I wonder why they picked orange. Like, I wonder if maybe one of the players used, there's a brand called Orange Amplifiers and guitar or bass cabinets, and there are orange. Like, I wonder what the orange connection is, or maybe that's the producer's favorite bowling ball. I don't know.
Well, it could simply be because like the album is titled Original Sin and it almost sounds like orange, maybe.
Orange original. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And then on, let's see, was it June 30th? There's something called Round and Round Progressive Sounds 1974. And
features Refugee, track,
the song
Rhythmically.
Rhythmically. And it also features an early version of Straub's Round and Round, hence the title. So that's on Cherry Red Records.
Round and round and round and round. Check it out.
Yeah.
It's a different song.
Speaking of Billy Sherwood, he's featured on a new Cameron Carpenter track called Beyond a Dream. It sounds really good, very well produced. You can listen to that on cameroncarpenter.bandcamp.com. And he and his brother, the late Michael Sherwood, are also featured on Kurt Michaels' Stones from the Garden, an album coming July 7th. Jeff Downs was a producer on an album called The Cold Light of Day by a band called The Cold-Blooded Hearts, featuring Gareth Ainsworth, due July 21st from Cherry Red Records. And there's also a remixed and remastered orange vinyl release for Anderson Stoltz's Invention of Knowledge coming July 21st.
Okay, so there's a surplus of orange vinyl, apparently.
Yeah.
Or just the new color, I don't know.
Yeah, and like people know that that's one of my favorite prog albums. So, very interesting stuff. And of course, John Anderson's YouTube channel is always posting like new like videos of featuring Yessongs, but with like some visuals as friend Mickey Byrne puts. So those are interesting.
Very cool.
Oh, Dave Watkinson says Roger Dean next week is holding a live painting evening and talk in East Sussex at Trading Boundaries. Yeah, thanks for the reminder.
So we've gone exactly 2 hours. Exactly 2 hours. We're going to wrap it up, our 100th episode. I want to congratulate my son, Steve, for putting up with me for 100 episodes, plus the 36 news desk reports. It's been fun. We're looking forward to another 100 episodes. And I think one of my favorite episodes of all of this, and I have to use the restroom, so I'm going to be quick. I'd say Billy Sherwood told an amazing story of that whole Yes journey. Bill Bruford, and featuring Roger Dean on his birthday, all his albums and all the feedback we got from audiences, and the documentary on Roger Dean and Freya's exhibit that we're almost done editing. Those are some of my favorites, but I've loved every interview, every guest, every news desk report. It's been a lot of fun, Steve. You and I should get on Zoom later on this evening, have a little toast together.
Yeah, for sure. I'd totally be down for that.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, everybody, so much. You can... favorite episodes?
A bunch of them are the interview ones. Like you mentioned, the Billy one. There's also, Bill Bruford, Steve Howe. That one was a surprise.
Oh, yeah, duh. Steve Hackett, too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just like a bunch that,
Yeah.
it's all kind of.
It's hard to really
becoming
single them
more-
out. Those are standouts, not necessarily favorite standouts. They're all our favorites. But folks, you can reach out to us at yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts. Send in show ideas. We have a whole bucket of show ideas that we thought of back in October when we were in San Francisco. We still got to get to, but we welcome yours. You can follow us at www.facebook.com/Yesshift, www.youtube.com/@Yesshift, and on anchor.fm/Yesshift. And there's a donation button there. And I got to renew my prescription that will keep me from having to pee so often. So it'd be great to get a donation. All right. Thanks so much, folks. Steve, we will talk later. And folks, we will see you again very soon.
Yeah.
Thanks.